Money has always been concentrated, whether it's geographic concentration or in terms of the societal aspect. Today we see a wealth gap which hasn't been observed for a very long time. The middle class is disappearing and the majority of individuals are finding their way out of cash and into poverty. The trouble is that the statistics generally do not capture the hardships that so many people face. In the next crisis, the disparity will worsen significantly. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at the wealth gap. We're going to look at where the people are moving to, where they are leaving. I'm going to show you many details about this. It's a simple and a quick video. Let's get into it. On the left hand side, you see all adults by wealth range. On the right hand side, total wealth in US dollar terms. I just wanted to show you this, point out a few things. In the bottom left corner, you are seeing 70% of the world's people are in the sub $10,000 wealth range. It's interesting to see where the wealth is concentrated, but of course when you break it down further by country, you start to notice that it's the main cities which have all the wealth, which generally have much of the population, and so we have to take this with a grain of salt. Look into it deeper for yourself, but it gives you an idea of where the money is. On the right hand side, you can see 0.7% of the world's people control $128 trillion of global wealth. Now that gives you an idea of where the money is at. The middle class is really becoming a thing of the past. If you go to any developing nation, you find something very interesting, and that is there's generally no middle class. You see a bunch of rich people, very few, and then everybody else. And it's funny the way it works because there really isn't that middle class, that growing middle class, that strong middle class, the strong economy. That's what you need to have a strong economy. If you don't have that, quite frankly, you're not going to build, you're not going to create, you're not going to have prosperity in the nation. Having just a few people controlling all the wealth, while it might be a smaller pot than, let's say, the United States, for example, doesn't have to be that way. It just has to be distributed in such a way that is more favorable to the mass of individuals. That doesn't mean it should be taken from one group or another. I'm just saying the way it looks. When you see countries that have strong middle class, it's great. It tends to be more prosperous. People tend to be happier. They tend to see themselves as being fortunate and so on. Okay, that's it. I'll move on to the next one. 70% of global ultra high net worth individuals live in these 10 cities. And you can see where they are. Many of them happen to be in the United States. There's a couple in Europe, and then we have a few in Asia. The obvious case here is that you see the United States occupying most of them. When you look at another situation with Asia having Hong Kong, that is the record holder at this time. You can see the concentration of wealth tends to be in these financial centers. It tends to be in places like London, like New York, like Hong Kong, where a lot of the wealth is, where a lot of the population is, and it tends to be a growing place. Things get more expensive, and the middle class is being hurt in these places. That's what I find today. You can look around, and it's pretty obvious to me. You'll see individuals that cannot afford their basic standard of living. They want to live in a house, they can't do it. They got to live in an apartment. When they have their apartment, it's very, very small, and oftentimes they have to live in dormitory style apartments, and this isn't favorable to a lot of people. They want to raise a family, they can't do so. So what do? They move out of the city, and now they're traveling 2+ hours per day minimum in many cases just to be able to live a basic lifestyle. Nothing fancy, but hey, this is what occurs. The middle class is vanishing in so many cities. Here are the countries that rich people are fleeing, as well as where they are flocking to. You'll see this series of charts. Just wanted to give you an idea of where the money is going. All right, so we see that Canada, the US, Australia, New Zealand, they're all having more millionaires moving in. Countries like France, they're not having the same luck, that's for sure. When you increase taxation on people, they will be upset, they will revolt, and they will leave live if they can afford to do so. Brazil, you've seen what they've encountered over the last few years. It hasn't been good, that's for sure. There have been a lot of pushback, to be polite, and they're not happy. Now, things will hopefully change with the new administration in, and we'll see. We'll see how that all works out, but I just wanted to give you the details. This is actually showing us, I believe, the data from 2015, 2016. So we'll see what happens over the next few years. Losing millionaires, gaining millionaires. You could see that France is topping the list in percentage terms here, just showing us Brazil and France terrible. Turkey as well. The gains that they've experienced is truly not a good thing. But what I like to focus on is France specifically because they increased their taxation levels. They talked about the 75% tax. They talked about the 100% tax, and they ended up scrapping it because it pissed off so many people. You can see on the right hand side, Australia, US, Canada, top in the list here, and they have seen a lot of millionaires coming in. Now, obviously, that might be a good thing. Depends how you want to look at the data. Anyway, at the bottom, you're seeing departing millionaires, arriving millionaires, 2016 data, just giving you an idea of how that's broken down. Regional composition of wealth distribution. On the left hand side, you're seeing the percentage terms. On the bottom, that's the wealth percentiles. It just breaks it down, whether we're looking at North America or Europe or China or so on. It breaks it down. If you find this interesting, just take a look at it, pause the video for yourself. Ultra high net worth individuals for 2018, the top 20 countries, you can see right there, United States. It's very clear to me that they are by far the winner. China is second in the list, then we have Germany and the UK, and it becomes quite insignificant when you compare the United States in this case. Okay, so definitely a lot of that financial wealth is coming from the United States. That is very, very evident in this chart. Number of dollar millionaires, percentage of the world total, is just giving you an idea on this pie chart of how that's all broken down. United States has 41% of the world total. You can compare that to a country that is considered to be very wealthy, like Switzerland. It has 2%. Rest of the world is 10%. So that is quite a big chunk to see all of these other different countries that millionaires can be everywhere. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be in the United States to be a millionaire. It just means that this is where the distribution of millionaires are living today. This is the report from Credit Suisse where most of that information is coming from, just to give you the exact documentation. If you want, if you have the time, take a look through this. It's a really long report, but there are so many different charts and diagrams and real long explanation, but it breaks it all down. It is very whitewashed, I would say, but I would think that if you're interested in the data, in the information, check this one out. Link will be in the sources as always. Americans' paychecks are bigger than 40 years ago, but their purchasing power has hardly budged, and that's what I worry about. Yes, you're seeing more money going into your bank account, but it doesn't mean enough when your groceries cost more, when your energy costs more, when your car costs more, when the payments you have to make on 1, 2, or 5 or 10 things every single month consistently increases. I know my insurance is always increasing. I know my bills that I'm paying, any sort of fees tend to rise every single year like clockwork. And that's what happens. And if your wages aren't really keeping up with that, then you start to slowly but surely fall. That's what's happening right now. It's not just the United States. Look at Canada, look at the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and we can't always factor in the house prices as being a source of worth or value in people's purchasing power. I think that's wrong, and I hope that when we see these numbers, that's not included, because of course the home, generally you would stick with it for a long period of time, and hopefully individuals are not using it as an ATM, but here we are. And I just want to throw this in at the end. I thought it was interesting. Rally Road, the app that lets you invest in classic cars. It's interesting. You buy shares of the car, and I think that this is going crazy. What does this even mean? I tried to read through it, tried to explain it to myself, and it didn't really make sense. Why does it even exist? If you can make sense of it, let me know in the comments, because I'd really like to know. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, you're supporting this channel, so I do appreciate that very much. And last but not least, if you want the financial education you were not taught in school, These 2 books have everything you need. You can get all of the data, the foundation, the history, the asset classes, making money, reducing your debt, and so much more. So check them out at the link in the description. If you're more interested in the audiobook version, you can get that at themoneygps.com.